Have you ever felt like your intelligence is both a blessing and a curse? Like you're carrying a burden you never asked for? Imagine holding a flashlight in the darkness. It illuminates dangers no one else sees, but its intense light can also blind you to what's around you. Intelligence, often celebrated as a key to success, can also open the door to a world of pressure and loneliness and crushing expectations. I'm Roach, Mark Roach. Welcome to Transcendent, my YouTube channel about a perspective formed from my journey around the world, crossing through a wide spectrum of human experience, from high to low. As most people in American society define them, this channel is all about inspiring common people to find their power. Perhaps you've felt this yourself, noticing patterns that no one else sees, anticipating problems that others overlook, and ultimately being held responsible for something like solving them. It's not uncommon to feel disconnected along the way, as if being ahead also means being alone. But hold on. In this video, we're going to look at how to explore this duality of intelligence and how it's been unraveled by philosophers like Arthur Schopenhauer and other great thinkers. We'll uncover how, despite feeling like a weight, intelligence can also be shaped into wisdom. They are quite different. And by the end, you'll not only see how you'll see your mind in a new light, but you may also discover ways to transform what feels like a burden into something that truly propels your life forward. Intelligence can be likened to a lighthouse in the dark. While it illuminates paths no one else notices, it also exposes the abysses and the dangers that we'd rather ignore. This ability to see beyond, through fascinating, comes with a weight not everyone understands. Knowing too much is like being at a party where everyone dances carefreely, but you're the only one who notices the cracks in the floor. You see things earlier, anticipate, and feel things earlier, and you may even suffer earlier. In everyday life, this translates into situations many have experienced. Imagine noticing the first signs of a strain in a relationship while the other person still believes everything is fine, or picking up on subtle changes in your boss's behavior and knowing with unsettling clarity that tough times are coming at work. For those who carry this ability to read the world, suffering often arrives before reality fully reveals itself. Philosophers have long grappled with this concept. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the weight of consciousness as a burden that makes existence harder. Schopenhauer, on the other hand, viewed intelligence as a kind of curse for those who possess it because it lays bare the emptiness of many illusions that keep us comfortable. It's like seeing the gears inside the clock that others admire only for its shiny exterior, but the whole beauty fades when you understand its darker details. However, the paradox of intelligence is not just about discomfort of knowing too much, but also about the isolation that it can bring. When you perceive more than others, it's easy to feel disconnected, as though you're living at a different pace. Perhaps the real question isn't whether intelligence is a gift or a burden, but rather how to live with the clarity it brings without letting it dim the small joys that still exist in the bigger picture of life. There's a strategic charm in appearing to know less than you actually do. If intelligence often isolates us, as we've discussed, the ability to conceal it can create an unexpected connection with others. Pretending to be unaware is not a sign of weakness, but a calculated move by those who understand that by blending in, they can better navigate the dynamics around them. It's like playing chess with your queen hidden, waiting for the right moment to strike. This approach has the power to ease the pressures placed on those seen as the most intelligent in the room. Imagine a meeting where everyone expects you to be the source of all the answers. Instead of delivering the solution immediately, you take a more neutral stance, allowing others to present their ideas. Suddenly, the atmosphere changes. People feel more comfortable collaborating, and your eventual contribution carries even more weight for coming at the exact right moment. Sun Tzu's philosophy, expressed in The Art of War, encapsulated this strategy: appear weak when you are strong. Being underestimated is not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity to observe and act without encountering resistance. It's like being in an orchestra where you let others lead the melody while holding on to the final chord that will give meaning to the entire composition. More than that, pretending ignorance creates space for others. Do you do that? It's a skill that invites empathy and losing your ego and listening while you choose your moments to shine. Well, maybe it's not about diminishing your intelligence, but about using it with wisdom, with finesse, like moving pieces on a board with the precision of someone who has already foreseen the entire game. The secret lies in recognizing that not every battle needs to be won through direct confrontation or force. Go with the flow. Use some wisdom. Dare to act from within. Sometimes this true power resides in being a quiet presence. This may allow others to maybe underestimate you or actually get to know you better. And at the right moment, you can reveal your strength. After all, the impact of surprise has always been one of the oldest and most effective forms of change and intelligence. Silence is also an invisible language that carries surprising power. In a world that often values those that speak loudly over those who think deeply, choosing silence might seem counterintuitive. However, it's not a sign of submission. Maybe it's mastery, being vulnerable. It's like a deep ocean. While the surface may appear calm, the internal currents are in constant motion, revealing a depth to those who watch closely. This silent strength is evident in leaders who don't need to raise their voice to command. They wait and they listen and they finally speak their words. And their words resonate with the weight of someone who has understood before reacting or commanding or forcing. Think of situations where you've seen someone stand out not for stating the obvious, but for knowing exactly when and how to intervene. This balance turns silence into a tool of power, and it's a gift of love. It's not an absence of action, but it can be a powerful, wise tool for a more calculated presence. Plato once said, wise men speak they have because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have something. This distinction lies at the heart of strategic silence. It gives us time to absorb, process, and choose the best way to respond. It's the opposite of impulsive reactions, and precisely because of that, it inspires respect. Those who master silence control the dynamics around them, shaping the rhythm and interactions like a conductor leading a symphony. In everyday life, this strategy is more common than we might think. In a heated discussion, the person who stays calm and silent often has the final word, not because they spoke last, but because they know how to listen first. Mahatma Gandhi captured this idea masterfully. Speak only if you're going to say it better than silence. It's a practice that requires discipline, but also reminds us that not everything needs to be said. Sometimes it can be felt. Sometimes it's the space left by the words that creates the most lasting impact. Silence is a reminder that wisdom isn't in the volume of the voice, but in the depth of thought. It's not an absence, but a choice. And like all well-made choices, it carries a power that not only is recognized by those with the patience to wait for the right moment to act. True strength doesn't need applause. Humility at its core is an act of balance. It reflects the understanding that achievements are important but never stand alone. It's like a towering tree that, despite its height, bends slightly so others can take shelter in its shade. Humility isn't submission or weakness. It's a wisdom that shows strength and confidence without the need to proclaim them. In today's society where showiness is often mistaken for success, humility stands out as a rare and powerful virtue. On social media, for example, it's common to see people flaunting their achievements in exaggerated ways, seeking external validation. But paradoxically, those who acknowledge the collective effort behind their victories end up earning the most genuine respect. A striking example is athletes who, after winning championships, don't position themselves as solitary heroes, but rather thank their team, coaches, maybe even the fans who supported them. This simple gesture conveys a greatness that goes beyond the result achieved. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This idea encapsulates the essence of humility. It reminds us that no one reaches the top alone. Behind every great achievement is an invisible web of support, colleagues, friends, family, mentors, even adversaries who challenged you to improve. Acknowledging this doesn't diminish your accomplishments. On the contrary, it elevates you to who you are, because it shows you don't place yourself above anyone else. Humility is also a path to build a stronger and more meaningful relationship with everyone in your life. Think of a workplace, for instance, where a leader recognizes the team's efforts rather than claiming all the credit for themselves. And that not only inspires others, but it also fosters a sense of belonging. When humility is present, it transforms rigid hierarchies into collaboration. People feel valued, creating a positive cycle of mutual respect. However, being humble doesn't mean dimming your own light. Often we confuse humility with self-depreciation, but these are very different concepts. That's a manipulation and being fake. Being humble means having the courage to acknowledge that even if you're good at what you do, there's still room to learn. There's accepting that success isn't a final destination, but a step in a continuous process. On the other hand, self-depreciation is underestimating your ability, an act that not only weakens you, but also diminishes the inspiration your journey could provide to others. There's a reason why those who speak less about their achievements tend to command more respect. The noise of self-glorification can be deafening, while humility stands out in contrast. When you act with simplicity, the impact of your actions speaks for itself. After all, how we trust someone, or how can we trust someone who constantly needs to remind us of their importance? So, if true strength lies in discretion, why do so many feel the need to shout about their victories? Perhaps they haven't yet understood that that the respect earned through humility is far more enduring than the respect bought through ostentation. Humility is like a river. It doesn't announce its arrival, yet its presence transforms everything around it. It nourishes the banks, brings life into communities, and sustains entire ecosystems, all without fanfare. Thus, humility is not just an ethical choice, but a long-term strategy. The higher you climb, the more important it becomes to remember where you came from and who helped you along the way. After all, respect isn't just about what you achieve, but how you handle all those achievements. And when you act with humility, the echo of your actions surpasses any words you could have spoken. As we've seen, intelligence can't be both a gift and a burden. For Schopenhauer, it was more than that, an inevitable weight, but also an invitation to wisdom. He believed that seeing the world with greater clarity forces us to confront realities people prefer to ignore. Instead of resisting this burden, Schopenhauer suggested a different approach, adjusting the straps of the backpack and learn to walk with it. Turning the burden into wisdom begins with acceptance. In everyday life, we often face situations where resistance only makes the weight heavier. Imagine a job that demands more from you than seems possible, or a family conflicts that feel endlessly repetitive. In these moments, insisting on changing what's beyond our control only amplifies this sense of exhaustion. Schopenhauer invites us to face these situations with serenity, understanding that acceptance isn't giving up, but rather redirecting our energy to where it can be more effective. Think of someone carrying a heavy backpack. At first, the tendency is to complain, try to lighten the load, or even abandon it altogether. But instead, if you adjust the straps, balance the weight, and walk at a steady pace, the journey becomes less exhausting. The same applies to intelligence. It stops being an unbearable burden when we learn to use it strategically, wisely. Let it work into your very being, and choosing which battles to fight and where to direct our energy. The practice of acceptance, so valued in Schopenhauer's philosophy, also resonates in contemporary therapies like acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. The goal isn't to deny comfort or to run from it, but to learn to coexist with it, channeling our focus into actions aligned with our values. It's a process that reframes the weight of intelligence, not as punishment, but as an opportunity for growth. When we understand that not everything can be controlled, we create space for true wisdom. Knowing too much doesn't mean carrying the world on your shoulders, but rather discerning which parts you can influence and which simply need to be observed. It's the difference between fighting against the river's current and learning to navigate it. In the end, wisdom isn't about knowing everything, but about knowing what to do with what you know and when to do it. Schopenhauer teaches us that intelligence can be a path to freedom. Not the freedom to escape the weight, but the freedom to find balance while carrying it. Accepting this duality is what transforms the burden of awareness into a steady, enduring strength. But how can we turn what feels like a burden into something that genuinely drives our lives forwards? Think about the times when your mind feels like it's ahead of others, noticing patterns and problems before anybody else. This could happen at work. It could happen in relationships or even in your own thoughts, in the moments. A simple practice that can help is to grab a notebook or your phone. Choose the Notes app and write down what's occupying your mind. Get it out. Divide these concerns into categories, what you can control and what you need to accept. This doesn't remove the weight entirely, but it adjusts the straps of your backpack, balancing the load and making it easier to carry. Another powerful approach is strategic silence. Try listening more in a conversation or meeting and allowing others' ideas to flow before you speak. When you choose the moment, the right moment, the right moment to intervene, then your words carry more weight. And the pressure to interrupt always lies ahead and changes the rhythm of how you interact, the cadence of how you're being seen and observed with others. Sometimes the greatest wisdom lies in waiting and observing the river before deciding how to cross it. And perhaps the most important is to remember that not every battle needs to be fought now. Some simply need to be observed as you focus your energy on what truly matters. Knowing too much doesn't mean you have to carry everything alone. It's about learning to navigate between what you can change and what you should let take its course. Intelligence, with all its nuances, is more than just a reflection of our ability to think. It's a guide that helps us see the world more clearly. But it's also a reminder that we don't always need to carry everything by ourselves. Throughout this video, we've explored how intelligence can be a force for creation and understanding, and how tools like silence and humility and acceptance can transform knowledge into something lighter and more meaningful. Perhaps the greatest lesson is this, that intelligence is not about how much you know, but about what you choose to do with what you do know. It's not about dimming the light that you carry to fit in or have others like you because you're not forcing or telling the truth, but about learning to direct these insights that you have, these truths that you are aware of and own and understand, shining it in moments and places where it will truly matter and be heard. After all, the greatest achievements that don't happen, they don't happen in isolation. They probably are happening with others in your life. They gain meaning when they create connections, maybe create a story, and have an impact that extend beyond just ourselves. And here's something you might need to hear. If you've come this far, it's because there's something special about you, not just in seeking answers or trying to understand what makes you unique, but in having the courage to look inward and reflect on it. This ability, which can feel something like a weight, is also what allows you to see paths that others can't. So don't rush. Allow yourself to pause, adjust your pace, and trust that not everything needs to be solved all at once. Before we go, here's an invitation to share what this video made you think about, or pass it on to someone who might benefit from this reflection. Just as a lantern shines brighter when it's shared, our ideas grow stronger when they spread. Your light matters, and the world can benefit from it. Until we meet again, you may find lightness in what you carry and purpose in in all that you illuminate. Illuminate. Until we meet again, may you find lightness in what you carry and purpose in all that you illuminate. I'm Mark Roach, wishing you all the best.